Welcome to the latest edition of Reasons Why Aliens Will Never Invade Earth with host Stanley Roberts. It's the podcast with the funny name addressing serious subjects. The world we live in seems to have lost its collective minds. Let's find out why. So here's your host, Stanley Roberts.
And let me pop this out so you can see me. Good afternoon, and we are here talking about online fraud. And I'm here because this morning I woke up and I realized that I could buy jewelry online for only $39.99. It's 60% off. Although when I got in line, it said 97% off. And I realized then the math was off, not to mention there was some bad English in there a little bit. Like, words were misspelled, which is a key that something's going on. But I'm no expert. And I thought it was important that I bring in an expert. So I want to welcome Michael J. Skiba. And he is an international fraud expert. And we're going to talk about how we cannot become victims of fraud. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Stanley? Great to be here.
Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I come out background about 25 years as an academic. So I have a MBA, PhD in white collar crime. Also as a practitioner. So I've been an international consultant, trainer. I've had a great career, work all around the world, helping companies and agencies fight crime. Also, alter ego. So I'm known as Dr. Fraud. It's kind of like when I need to get serious. That's kind of the name that I utilize. So, but yeah, glad to be here to share the expertise.
All right. So, tell me, there seems to be an uptick in fraud right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, what we see, Stanley, is fraud is very cyclical, right? So it follows the cycles. It even follows the seasons. We have shopping fraud and charity fraud and scams in the holiday season. We have Valentine's romance scams around Valentine's Day. And right now, what we're seeing a lot of spikes in shopping scams. And just like, the scam that you were kind of targeted for, right now, there's a lot more people shopping because it's back to school. Right, you have kids looking to buy things. You have parents looking to buy things. You have, and also parents and families trying to sell things. So trying to move, move the inventory in the house, if you will. So scammers know this. They focus on these areas that are hot because these are where we are the most vulnerable and where the most traffic is right now.
So now I'm going to say something I'm embarrassed to admit right now. But a while back, I wanted an Apple Watch really, really bad. And so I was online and I saw a website online that said applewatches.com. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, applewatches.com, Apple selling watches. So I go online and they had discounted watch. So I go online, I order it. I'm like, oh my God, I got me an Apple Watch, And then my better half, Diane, says, where'd you get that from? I said, applewatches.com. And so I said, but it's legit. It's clearly legit. Apple Watches, they were genuine products.
Yeah.
So I wait. And then finally, I look online. It's being shipped from China. And the whole invoice is in Chinese. Mm-hmm. And so it showed up like 4 months later and opened up Apple Watch, but it was Apple AirPods.
Yep.
Now, okay. There were Apple AirPods. They were legit Apple AirPods. But I wanted to find out more about them because it seemed a little strange that I asked for a watch and I get AirPods. So I do a little background search on the actual AirPods. I didn't know if you put in a serial number, it tells you where they came from. Turns out that these were actually decommissioned.
Right.
And were supposed to be thrown away. They weren't thrown away. They were sold online. So now I wake up, now I'm really skeptical. So I'm looking online and I'm looking this morning and I see the K Jeweler thing.
Oh.
And I'm like 39. And okay, first of all, we do know that 6% off is a little different from 97% off.
Right.
And if you have a $1,900 ring and you take off 97%, it's not going to be $39. But people don't see that. They see a discount. What do you have to say about all that?
Yeah, I mean, every single thing that you just talked about, Stanley, we could pick apart, probably spend 20 minutes on. And this is why, because what the scammers do, and this dates back into the early, a lot of the research I've done. I really love some of the early stories. George Parker, perfect example. 1850s, 1860s. He sold sold the Brooklyn Bridge about 10 times for about $50,000. Okay, now at that point, could you imagine? That's like $2 million now. How did he do it? He didn't even own it. It's a bridge. And when you look at how he did these things, he used some of the basic, psychological, we call them the powers of persuasion. And if we were to start looking at the Holmes case, which is big in the news right now, we could start to pick apart some of the things that she has done throughout that case. And so for example, I'll just give you a perfect example, which you kind of got drawn down that line. We call it a sense of urgency, right? That's the number one thing. Right. So, and we see this in the consumer space. Legitimately, a lot of companies, they will put in, act now. And these are even on the QVC, they have the countdown timer. Those are legitimate. But what that does is that makes you use your emotion, so you're making a subjective decision, not an objective decision. Right. Okay. So you're not using your brain, you're using your emotion, and you're thinking, wow, 60% off, hey, I can get my spouse, my friend, whoever, great ring. You have this dream that you're playing out in your mind on this, right?
I can buy 2 rings.
You buy 2 rings. You could be a rock star, Stanley, right? I mean, that's how it is. But so they key in on it. So that's the number one thing that they grab you with. Any type of scam, doesn't matter if it's a postal scam, Netflix scam, there's some element of emotion that they grab you with first. And what they do, it's kind of like fishing. You put out multiple lines. There was probably 5 or 6 different techniques that they used, but you grabbed that one. I mean, there could be other ones like, again, sense of urgency is a big one. Like a group identity, like fear of missing out. It could be like, hey, everybody's buying. There's only 2 left. There was 10,000 of these, and there's 1 left. So you're thinking, wow, I got to be a part of this community or whatever it might be, right? So. Yeah, exactly. So this is how they work, and they grab your emotion. So they grabbed you. They grabbed some sort of emotion from you. You're thinking, wow, I love an Apple Watch. This would be cool. I'm doing all my media work. I can see people texting me, emailing me on my phone, and this is great. So you kind of were thinking maybe more of that, and not, okay, yeah, this might be a little shady. This company's here or there. But when we look at all these scams, Stanley, we look back and those telltale signs are always there in every single case where someone's been duped.
And the telltale signs are always, for some reason, they cannot spell to save their life. They legit have like focus was, our factory. How do you spell factory wrong? It's like you got one job and that's to write down the thing and do it right. Or they may have something like create was missing an E, but they try to duplicate the site. I even was a victim once where someone actually made a duplicate Stanley Roberts Twitter account.
Wow. Yeah.
Was trying to dupe people out of money, saying that donate to this charity under my name. Mm-hmm. And the L and the I on internet looks the same. So he just made it. It was like Stan, instead of L-E-Y, it was I-E-Y. Mm-hmm. And my fans that follow me were like, dude, somebody's trying, and they literally made the page a duplicate.
Yep.
And they said, dude, somebody's trying to that's why I have the check mark. Yep. So I'm like, and they made a fake check mark. They went as far as to build a fake check mark to make it look as legit as possible.
Right.
And people don't read. I've told that for years. People don't read, so they see something, they react to it. Yep. And it's that moment of, I got to get this right now. And before you know it, you're scammed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. And, there's so many elements to discuss there too. And I think one of the big ones that we're seeing is, studies show that people are on their mobile phones more now than ever, right? I mean, kids especially, 7 hours, 22 minutes a day on devices, right? But mainly small devices. Adults are around that same, anywhere between 7 and 10 hours. I mean, it's unbelievable when you think we have 24 hours in a day. We spend a third quarter of our time on these devices. So here's what's interesting about that. If you're looking, doing research on a laptop, right? It's a bigger screen, and psychologically, people are used to spending a little more time on their laptop, whether it's work, school for students, typing a report, whatever it is you're doing. So psychologically, you're like, wow, I don't want to hop out of my laptop. So if you see an email, you're actually less likely to be scammed through a laptop. You're on your phone. I mean, even just the size of the screen,
Yes.
the spelling, you're going to miss it. But we have a different, when you look at the psyche, we have what's called a swipe mentality, on our phone. Meaning, the average person, let's say they look on an email on a laptop, let's say they spend 5 to 10 seconds, which might be a long time. On the phone, they're around 3 seconds, or maybe even under. So they're doing a quick scan, like it, don't like it, swipe left, swipe right, whatever it is.
Right,
exactly, right? But then, right, they can get duped easily. And so what happens is that emotion, they get grabbed by that first. Yes. And then they're not really thinking like, wow, that apple.com, they might not see. And here's a trick a lot of the scammers do is what they'll do is they'll use that somewhat legitimate site, but they'll make it look, it might be APP IE or something, but they use a different capital.
Really bizarre, right?
Really bizarre, but it makes you look, when you look quick, like that's really a legitimate Apple site. You're not going to catch that on your phone. So that's a technique that a lot of them are using. And this is why this is spiking right now, because a lot more people are on their phones as opposed to laptops. So that's why we're seeing a lot of spikes, in this area. And the scammers are focused on that. They know that.
So here's the new twist. You ready for this? The new twist, which is what I saw this morning with the K Jeweler ad, was that it was a sponsored ad on TikTok. So when you think of a sponsored ad on social media giants, you assume that they've been vetted and they have your back. And in actuality, these are put up, the money's taken, and it's up to you to figure out. And you trust the TikToks, you trust the Facebooks, and it may be unfounded trust because you're basically saying that this is a major internet giant, and why would they let someone pay for an ad that's going to defraud me? But it's in the terms of service that basically says that once you log on, they're not responsible for anything.
Correct. That's right. And so Stanley, this is a huge risk, and this is a great message to get out to everyone listening and all of our followers, is that with those sites, when you have the legitimate sites, and I mean like your Amazons and some of the bigger ones, they use those legitimate payment platforms like PayPal. And yeah, there are scams on Amazon, absolutely. But with those like I call them more auction level sites, or the social media sites, as you mentioned. So auction sites would be your Poshmark, your Craigslist, and even your Facebook Marketplace. But then also, as you mentioned, your TikTok, Instagram, those two are and Snapchat even very prone.
I'm shaking my head violently up and down because that's how I'm seeing it. It's pervasive now. I remember back in the day when I did stories about people who logged on to Craigslist because they wanted to rent an apartment.
Right.
And the apartment was listed as some amount of money that they normally would not pay. It's like, well, that's pretty cheap for the Bay Area, but I want it. Oh my God, I need a place really, really bad. Right. So you log on to Amazon, onto Craigslist. You go and and the people will tell you letters like, well, I need somebody I can trust because I'm out of the country, but send me money. Just send me, they just ask you to send them gift cards, which is the biggest scam, gift cards, number one. Western Union, all those. And so what I did was I actually went and tracked down the actual pictures where it came from, the actual realtor. And I said, hey, do you know that this place is being put up for grabs on Craigslist? The guy goes, I had no idea. I said, is it available? He goes, yeah, it's available, but it's not for $1,300 a month. Mm-hmm. It's more like $3,000 a month. Right. And I'm not in Europe, and my family's not. There's no family emergency. So these people got scammed. They paid a deposit plus the amount of money, and they got nothing. Right. And that was back when it was Craigslist. Now we're like high tech scammers now. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you go on Snapchat, for example, you go on someone's story, and you have to swipe through about every, I'd say one of third photos is an ad. Same thing with Instagram. You go through your feed and maybe one of five or more or less is an ad. And the thing is with those is that those platforms, again, those auction sites and those social media platforms, there is very, very limited security involved in that. So there's limited to no fraud protection.
And you mentioned it. It's what they call assumption of risk. They assume, hey, buyer beware. You're going to engage in this site, and this is what's going to happen. But again, in all those situations, all those platforms, there's always those few red flags, that come up. If you have, if you have a seller, and this is one of the things I always recommend. If you're buying something, look at that seller's review. So look at the seller first. Do your due diligence. Pop in the seller. How many things does he have? But then what you can do is take it, level it up a little bit. Look at the reviews that they have. If someone has 1, 2, or no reviews, no way. I would never buy anything through those platforms. But then look at those reviews, because a lot of times if you pop on a couple of the reviews and there's only 1 or 2, those are plants. The scammer has actually created, fake profiles, and they're making it, seem more appealing to you. But right, people get duped on those, and especially because they use those alternate forms of currency. They're not using the PayPal. They're using Venmo. Buy now, pay later is a new one coming out. All these alternatives or wire transfers, cryptocurrency, huge flag. No recourse. I mean, you might as well just kind of, write an open check, because your chances of getting that back are probably less than 1%, if you will.
I always say, I have an old saying that hashtag remember the pizza box. And people go, what does that even mean? I said, well, scammers know that most people online, and not all, but most, are idiots. And I don't mean to call people that are watching idiots, but I'm saying, remember the pizza box, because on pizza boxes, it actually says open box before eating pizza.
Right. Yeah.
So my point I'm making is that they know that people online don't pay attention. And maybe idiot wasn't a good choice of words, but they don't pay attention. They're not key to what's going on. So they don't, like, for instance, I was watching on Instagram one day, they were showing one of those ads that has, you put the shirt on and it makes you look thinner.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a guy who was really obese, and he put the shirt on, all of a sudden he was really thin. And somebody typed in the comments, which can be funny sometimes. They say, where'd all the fat go?
Right.
Because the shirt didn't make you lose weight.
Right.
So Photoshop it, blah, blah, blah. And then, but and then you have other things like a flashlight that you can see into, see the Mars, which turns out doesn't work. And some people, you can tell people, I bought that, it doesn't work.
Right.
So there are always someone online who will always purchase something that is not legit. And you're right, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, I was surprised to see it on TikTok, and I thought it should be better than this. If you can't trust the social media giants to make sure that your sales are being vetted by whoever's selling it on there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things you can do too is and you mentioned it with the vacation. So what you can do, or with the houses, one thing you can do is, like, especially on Facebook Marketplace, a place where they ask for photos, and Craigslist, another perfect example. If you do a reverse Google image search, what that's going to do is that's going to tell you where else that image is online. And all you have to do is, you right click it, and then you put it in Google Images, not Google regular, Google Images search. And it's gonna actually show you if it's somewhere else. And we've done this. We did I did a podcast back about a year ago. We did this online. We found the first tractor we came across. We grabbed it. We put it online. We found that it was posted in Home Depot catalogs. So this person had been selling this. It was too good to be true. That was the first thing. It was about 30% lower than the average price. So that was the first clue that led us down, that we knew it was a scam. As soon as we reversed image searched it, we saw a ton of hits, Home Depot sales. So they just grabbed it and put it somewhere else. So that's a big a big scam. And also too, you can see it if it's posted across multiple platforms. This is common in Craigslist. This happened the other day. I I was looking at a boat, and the boat popped up in my area, upstate New York. But then also popped up in Florida, also popped up in Minnesota. Okay, now yes, that person could be marketing heavy and crossing,
Could be.
but chances are I saw a few other flags in there that's absolutely a scam, 100%. So those images are important.
I get in so much trouble because I go online and find stuff that people post that is not right. Case in point, there was a story a while back where they had a girl said that she was attacked by police dogs.
Yeah.
Right. And they had a shot of her face that was all bitten up. and it said, look at what the police did. They let the dog go and they bit the girl. And it was like, oh my God, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And so I cross-referenced the photo, and apparently this girl got bit by another dog in Texas. The same exact scar, the same exact bite mark, and it wasn't anything to do with police. It was something to do with something completely different. So, and of course, God forbid me to give ruin a good narrative with the facts, but I do that. I cross-reference photos on a regular basis, and I think one time they had a big rally somewhere. They said, "Look how many people showed up! It was 1 million people." Cross-reference a photo. It turned out to be Woodstock.
Yeah. Right.
So how do we stop from being scammed? I mean, I know it says slow down, but telling people to slow down is like telling people not to stop for red lights. They're,
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, to stop for red lights. They're not going to listen. They're still going to run them anyway.
Right.
So how do we change people's minds?
I say, and you're spot on that. I mean, the number one preventative method is what I call, think before you click or hop out. And what I mean by that is, right, spend that just second. It doesn't even take 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Just is this too good to be true? Just ask yourself, does this make sense? Just for 1 second. And then, yes, you still could engage. You still might be brought back, brought down that power of persuasion line. But then the second is make sure that you have, even if you do engage and are engaging, make sure you have the strong prevention in place to back you up, like a safety net. And what I mean by that is, like I said, if you're doing cryptocurrency, there's an expectation. I guarantee you that there's no jurisdiction, law enforcement, who knows where the money's going to go. You're not going to get that back. If you use a credit card with fraud protection, absolutely, or PayPal, which has some countermeasures in place, there's still a very good chance that they're going to stop the payment before it's actually made. So even if you're kind of inclined that you might not think before you click, or hop out and check out the site, the reviewer, make sure you have those safety nets in place to protect yourself. Even credit, having maybe fraud alerts put on your credit, or checking. A lot of people don't do this. They don't check their child's credit, and that's an area that could be a whole different podcast, Stanley, because a lot of times the scammers will focus on the kids, because who's looking at the kids? Don't even have credit cards. They can get credit cards in their name. Nobody sees anything. It can go longer unnoticed for a child. So just having those, again, safety nets to protect yourself. Because I tell you what, back about 5 years ago, this, we were talking, it wasn't a matter of kind of, if you were going to get scammed. I mean, now it's when. It's when, exactly. So it's not, people are not like, oh, how to avoid it. It happens to me. You mentioned it, happens to me all the time. When I tell you what, just last week, when I trademarked the Dr. Fraud name, right? That was 5 years ago. I got a domestic trademark. It's all legal and everything. Within 1 week in my P.O. box, I had 5 letters, internationally based, had all the signs to it, with all of the cues basically stating, and it looked great, that I had to pay all this extra money for this international, etc. I actually just posted it on LinkedIn. If you go on my feed, I posted it last week, because I got another one, and I just needed to let everybody know, and I circled kind of the clues on there. But to me too, Dr. Fraud, we can't get scammed, Stanley, but it's like,
I know, it's like,
but we do, it's not, so yeah.
The minute I admit I got scammed, it's like, what? Mr. Badley got scammed?
Can't happen.
Mr. Perfect, all the world's coming to an end.
Right.
Like, it happens even to the best of us.
Yeah.
I got a phone call one day in Fry's, and it says Chase, the JP Morgan.
Yeah.
Which is Chase.
Yeah.
And I answer the phone, and the guy sounds, "Hi, Mr. Roberts. Yeah, this is from Chase. We just wanted to know we had some fraudulent activity on your credit card.
Yep.
And we need you to verify it. Can you give us information so we can make sure that it's you?" I'm like, "Well, you just called me. You should know it's me."
Right.
I said, "I tell you what, I'll call you back." And I hung up. And then I
Yep.
called Chase myself, and they go, "No, that was a scam." Now, ironically, I got a text message on my tweet from K Jewelers saying that they are aware that there are some fraudulent things going on, and they are trying to get them removed.
Yep.
And they said only go to K.com or K.com online if you're going to make a purchase. But don't buy anything off of Don't buy a TikTok dancer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, and Stanley, I tell you what, and I'm glad you just brought this up because a lot of a lot of us think a lot of our listeners, and consumers in general, it's not just outright money that they're looking for, right? Yes, they could dupe
Yes,
out of your
you're right.
credit card, but just as important is personal information. So
Yes.
just knowing, Stanley, your full name and your date of birth,
Yep.
they could either do things with it themselves for identity theft, or they can sell that on the dark web. They can absolutely sell these things. I mean, we see
Yep.
this with everything, vaccine cards now. And I mean, it's crazy how, so they look for two things. So that's why everyone should be guarded. It's not just payment, just like you did. Just think for a minute. The IRS calls you, a charity calls you,
The
and
IRS
before,
never calls you.
yeah, exactly. No, right. And they say that on their website, but a lot of people don't know that. And before they know it, they've just release their name, their social security number, and then the person hangs up, and then that's, it's like game over, like the old arcade games.
So even with credit card information, like let's say I went on K this morning and brought 2 pieces of jewelry for $30 each, right? And I would give them my credit card thinking, oh, this is great. I can't wait. And then they say, your card was declined. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. How is my card declined? I know my card is good. Well, in actuality, what you just did was give them all your card information.
Right.
So while you're thinking that your card is messed up, they're going shopping right now.
Yep. Correct.
So, yes. And so if someone asked, Betty Veronica asked, K Jewelers? Yes, K Jewelers, the actual K Jewelers. It was a sponsored ad on TikTok. It would look legit to me, but I've seen some stuff online that even I question the legitimacy. Yep. It's so well done.
Well done.
And I'm like, wait a minute, is this real?
Yeah.
Is this real? But, just so you know, people, the IRS will never call you. They'll just send you some really scary letters in the mail that are certified.
Yep.
I got them. Trust me.
Yep.
It's certified. And if you ignore it, they just, next thing you know, they're all up in your bank account. So it's either way, you're gonna get your money.
Right. Yeah. And actually, Betty makes a good comment. I wanted to just talk about that for a second about our children. So here's one of the interesting, the question that you started off for, you asked, well, hey, why is there such a spike right now? And one of the reasons also is our younger generation. And what I want to do is explain that a minute, because the younger generation, they were born on their devices, born on their iPhones, iPads, right? They are now becoming of age that they are now consumers or getting close to it. So they are so used to doing everything online. They're comfortable using these online platforms for payment. And Venmo, that's, I mean, you and I when someone bought me a Starbucks, I would give them cash. That's where Venmo started. It was kind of like the virtual, I'll give you $2 for my Starbucks. But that now has grown. It went from a peer-to-peer to now it's a business-to-business. So and it does. And when they made that jump, there were no additional protocols put in place. It was just, okay, yeah, we're going to accept more money and revenue. So one, our kids they're used to now, that platform. Two, with COVID, we were forced to use our phones more for payment, for touchless ordering. So there's a segment of the population that would probably never think about it, but is more comfortable with doing that. And what that does is that's driving all of the companies. That's why you see all of these buy now, pay later, all these new payment platforms, because the consumers are saying, hey, we like this. Almost every website you go to, the big ones, the big box stores, they take these alternative methods because they're listening to their customers who like it. So getting to the kids, that's really driving a lot of the thoughts. And prevention is education, number one. Make sure they know, because they don't know the risks, and that's the number one thing you can do with them.
My youngest daughter, a long time ago when Zynga was out and they had all the different games, I get a notification that I brought 500 coins.
Yep.
I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sitting here watching TV, and all of a sudden I just brought 500 coins.
Right.
And I walk in the back room, and there's my daughter on the phone thinking she ordered 500 coins through Zynga. And it was like $100 that she spent, maybe something like that, to buy these coins. And I called up Zynga, and they're like, that's on you, bro.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You should have been paying attention to your daughter and not letting her be online by herself. I'm like, so you guys are not going to take any responsibility for what just took place. And then I explained to him who I was and why I thought this was a bad idea. Like magic. I got refunded. It was like magic. You know, we made a mistake. Here's your money back.
Right. Yep.
But not everybody gets your money back.
No.
They just lose it. And again, going back to the Facebooks, the different, the Instagrams, the TikToks, and then I want to get to another subject, which is going to be kind of a mind blower for some people, that they expect these to have your back. And in actuality, they do not have your back.
Right.
And
correct.
And we discussed this earlier, but I just wanted to reiterate that those pages do not have your back, and buyer beware, even if you are on one of those major platforms. Now, let's move into something else, because you mentioned Posh.com. And there's a new one, the Real.
Yep.
So you can buy high-end purses off of there. You can buy Louis Vuitton. You can buy, and you're thinking, well, this is a good deal. It's a legit company. Yep. They may be legit, but there's nothing to stop somebody from being not legit to sell their products to them, because it's kind of like a consignment store. So when you see the people running out of needless markup with all those purses, or coming out of Tiffany's with these $1,000 purses, and you're like, what are they doing with them? It's very simple. They just go online and put them up for sale. There's no way to track where these purses came from.
Yep.
So it's the old thing that we had a long time ago, where it's like you're buying stolen merchandise even though you're buying it legitimately.
Right. Correct. Yeah, Stanley, these sites, Poshmark again in particular, that was the first one that came to mind, because it's like an auction site. And they don't filter, they don't check the legitimacy of the item that they're selling, right? So it's not like you get a certification that this is a Gucci pocketbook, or a Coach pocketbook. There's no guarantee whatsoever. And here's a psychological principle too. If you were to see a Coach pocketbook, right, that retails for $300, if you saw it for $10, right, nobody would buy it, because they'd be thinking, wow, this is definitely a scam. But what they do, they're smart. They take a little bit off the price, but not too much. So they maybe sell it for $250, or they'll show $300. Cross it out, $250, limited time only with the countdown timer, $225. So you're like, wow, this is legitimate. So you see how they slowly use that psychological sense. So many people get duped by that, but absolutely, there's no way to verify. It's very similar, in New York. I mean, there's areas down there where if you're buying something off the street, quote unquote, it's fake. You know that, and you expect, hey, if I get 2 months out of this, if I get the summer season, it's okay. It's the same thing, but the difference, as you mentioned, these are being put on legitimate websites, and it's all in those disclaimers. It's all in again, buyer beware, and that is one of the biggest threats with buying. So when you have those sites, the Facebook Marketplace and all that. So one, when you're actually purchasing something, there's a lot of scams. It's not only like your money and your identity, like we talked about, but it could be, again, in what we call the counterfeit, the fake goods. One, you don't even get the good. Two, it's fake, and three, it's not what it seemed like. It could be the bag looked bigger in the picture, and then you get a smaller bag. I mean, that happens all the time. There's no recourse, really. There's not. That happens all the time.
It happens a lot, but I have to go back, because I just got called on the carpet by a dying faith. Apparently, I said purses at Tiffany's. I guess I was thinking of breakfast at Tiffany's, and it came out, I don't know. Tiffany's may have like some diamond purses, diamond stuff. I don't know, but the places that have the high-end purses.
Yep.
But it reminds me of when you said you buy something big and it comes in small. So here's a case in point. I actually ordered a pizza once on one of those food apps. Yep. And you put all the money in for the food app, and it was like $30 after you get all this and do that. And I was like, I'm thinking, I'm so hungry, I can't wait for this pizza, right? And I legit crazy. The pizza was like this big.
Yep, right.
I paid $30 for like a pizza that was 10, like a 5-inch pizza, a personal pan pizza that cost me $30.
Yep. Right.
And I'm like, and then I look back and I'm like, wait, so I paid. So if you want your food early, you got to pay $1.50.
Right.
If you want your food hot, you got to pay $1.50.
Yep.
If you want your food delivered the first time, it's another $1.50. It's just, but you're right. Everything it goes back, and I don't want to get too far off base, but it just makes you think about how different levels of things you see on the internet changes because for example, there was a thing online where they said they were stealing the Snoop Dogg Corona statues.
Yep.
From different stores. They were 43 inches tall.
Yeah.
First thing I did was go on eBay, and there was one for sale, $800.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who sold it had it listed as 43 feet.
Yep. Nice. Yeah. Right. That's pretty big.
I posted that. I'm like a 43-foot Snoop Dogg statue.
That's big. That's a lot of shipping
that?
there, I think, Stanley. That's a big shipping fee, I would imagine.
The shipping was $200.
Yeah. Yep.
$200, I'll drive there and pick it up myself.
Right. Yeah. And it's right. And that's, again, we fall back like what you and I talked about with prevention. Does it make sense? And stick to the, whatever someone can do whatever you can do to kind of put that safety net, underneath you. But most of those scams, they definitely show signs somewhere or the other, like you mentioned early on, misspellings, links. You can right click a lot of the links before you click them, like that apple.com. If you right clicked it and just put it in Word doc, check it out, blow it up a little bit. See,
yeah, I've learned that.
Yeah, exactly. Where, what exactly is in there? Is there a stem in there? Is there ransomware even? I mean, there could be something like that, which is very common these days. Or they're just going to get access to your computer and watch all your clicks. I mean, that's one of the biggest, breach points right now in companies is the human element. So there's a lot of different ways that they can approach it. But getting back to your thought on the counterfeit goods, 100%. And we unfortunately, do see that a lot because there's really no, there's no protection, there's no filtering, and putting something. You go on Craigslist right now and grab a fake picture. And put some information on there.
Did you hear what happened in Vermont?
Well, I'm sorry.
Did you hear what happened in Vermont?
Refresh my memory.
3 state troopers were fired or resigned because they were selling fake COVID certificates.
Oh yes. Right. Yep. Correct. Yep.
And that goes back to the hashtag. Remember the pizza box.
Yep.
Because you have a great job and you just blew it up over trying to sell some COVID. Who does that?
Yeah.
And so should we use cash or should we use, how should we pay for stuff online to avoid being a victim?
Always credit card with strong fraud protection, 100%, with double layer authentication. I mean, you just got to make it, you got to make it more difficult. This is what I always say. You can't, you don't have to. I always picture like fraud. I tell a long story in my speeches about an experience I had in Romania about outrunning a bear. And I was told, hey, look, you don't have to outrun the bear, which would be scams. You just have to outrun your friends. And this, and this is and I have a really good story for a longer version about that. But really, and it's not to say, hey, we're all against, I'm against you and everything. No, we're all in it together. But all you have to do in some of the biggest companies I consulted with to the smaller mom and pop stores, it's all about making it more difficult. If you show a little bit of pushback, make it a little more difficult, they don't want to deal with it. They want to go elsewhere because they're dealing in volume, right? So basically, right, if you make it a little harder, use that fraud protection, a double layer authentication. Yes, it can all be, penetrated, but it just makes you less of a target. It makes you run faster, against, everyone else because they'll go to different platforms. But absolutely, stick away from the wire transfers, the cryptocurrency, debit cards. I mean, all of that is just huge. That should be the number one flag to turn you away.
But the weirdest thing about crypto, like Bitcoin, they have ATMs in malls now.
Yep. Right.
I mean, so it makes it look legitimate. I mean, I'm not saying Bitcoin's not legitimate. Before all the Bitcoin people start writing me and telling me that I'm not saying it's not legitimate. I'm just saying that it's crazy that you can get it from an ATM machine. And I had a joke on Twitter yesterday. I'm waiting for the day when someone accidentally drops their Bitcoin in the street and I get to pick it up.
Right. Exactly. Right. The Bitcoin wallet. Right.
Yeah.
But you're right, because people hear all the stuff in the news about it. And, it's just more of a sense of comfort with it now than even last year. But again, right. I mean, crypto, there's just no recourse. There's no jurisdiction. I mean, nobody even knows where to start. We've had investigations. I've had a couple I've looked into with Bitcoin. I mean, and you have a transaction in, Eastern Europe, and then, the company's supposedly in Connecticut, and then, the mail originated in Mexico. I mean, you're not even going to get a call, a 2-second conversation with law enforcement there, because they're not going to know where to start with it. So that's part of the issue too, is jurisdictional support and investigation. I am starting to see some regulation about, I think, a month ago. I know that the federal government started to put this on the docket, to try to get some, kind of legway, if you will, going with Bitcoin. So this is definitely a sign in a good direction, but it's gonna take some time before that stuff happens.
But the problem is, when you have things like these cryptocurrency, they were made to offset the government. So if the government gets involved, these things start to lose. Like, here's a good example. So they used to do 420 day in San Francisco, and every 420, masses would show up at Golden Gate Park to smoke weed because it was illegal, but they wanted to make it legal by having a smoke out on 420.
Yeah.
City says, you know what? You guys are trashing the place, so we're going to sanction it, and we'll make it so that you have to get checked through the metal detectors. And all of a sudden they have booths up, and everybody's like, wait a minute. The government, they're like telling us it's okay now.
Yep.
I'll just stay home. I mean,
Yep.
they still show up, but it's like, once the government gets involved, it's like, I wrote, my story was, it's like a party, a government sanctioned party. No one likes the government to tell them what to do or be involved in what they do, because for some reason they think the government will always mess it up.
Yep.
And, there may be some truth to that.
Right. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, with those platforms, I mean, we'll see where it goes. I don't know what kind of pushback they're going to get. So we'll see kind of where that goes. But just, again, be forewarned. Any platform, even if they, we see this a lot in vacation scams, Airbnb and those sites, where they're looking to actually hop out, and say, hey, instead of paying me in the Airbnb site, through PayPal, just let's hop out, in crypto, and I'll save you 20%. And what they'll do is they'll justify it. They'll say, well, because Airbnb takes 15% or something like this, so you think to yourself, wow, okay, that's reasonable. He's going to save some money, 15%. I'm going to save, 5, whatever it is. But that's how they do it, but once that payment goes through, I mean, there's no way to track it even, really. There's no electronic trail to really try to figure out where it went and where it's going to go.
Well, here's something that I'm going to throw in here, and you may or may not be aware of this, but do you ever use Uber?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You ever use Lyft?
Yep.
So you know that they operate off of an application,
right?
What some of the Lyft drivers are doing and the Uber drivers are doing is they're pulling up and saying, hey, I'll give you a ride for free, give me the $20,
right?
As opposed to it going through the app. Now, It seems like a great deal because you're still paying.
Yep.
In your mind, you're still going to pay whatever it is, but you're actually losing, because if he gets in a crash, he's no longer covered because he's not working for, it's a whole different ballgame. The insurance that he has, if saying that he has the right insurance, only covers him if he operates on the app. So you would be left hanging high and dry because you got in a Uber car, and it's actually illegal for them to do that. Most people don't know that, but it is illegal to get in a Uber or Lyft and pay cash. You have to use the app. Right. But the Uber drivers are doing it where I literally was on a traffic stop where the Uber driver had a suspended license, but it wasn't the driver who operated the car. It was his brother, who also had suspended license for DUIs.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, this whole fraud thing goes more than just, Tiffany purses.
Oh yeah. Every level, Stanley. Right. I mean, you could go through your day. I mean, if you were I were to take our phones with us, like starting in the morning, we'd probably find 100 vulnerabilities for scams out and about, whether it's at Starbucks, whether it's at, a store, pumping gas, gas skimmers. I mean, literally it's everywhere. And people do have to have their guard up. That's the thing, all times.
But you literally can't have your guard up all the time, because I got scammed. Literally got scammed. I brought 5 purses from Saks Fifth Avenue.
Yep.
While I was in Thousand Oaks, while I'm sitting at the beach in San Francisco.
Yep. Right. Yep.
Because someone had a skimmer on top of a Costco gas station thing, and they scammed my skimmed my credit card, my American Express.
Yep.
So what I did now, I brought one of those wallets.
Yep. RFID wallets, RFID. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
I'm old school. I'm not old school. I'm new school now. I'm actually buying a wallet that will protect me from being skimmed.
Yep. Yep. And that's a whole different, I mean, the gas station, so the gas station skimmers, that stem from the ATM skimmers, which have been around for years. But both of those technologies, they're not new and they're really easy to do. And what most people, what people can do, we always recommend this to talk about prevention. You can use the chip cards, yes, but some of these skimmers have the ability to compromise those. To go in the store. I mean, you talk about go back to basics, go in the store. The chances of them being a skimmer in the store, pretty much slim to none. Or
And it
use
does happen.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, but it's a different type of skimmer. It's a little bit harder to install those. Whereas at the pump, they can do that. They can compromise the pump at any time. And they're using these new pumps now. The digital, a lot of them are going. Like if you see one of the old pumps, the old rotaries.
Yeah.
That's a huge vulnerability. Yeah, keep driving because they can pop those open, put those in there. I mean, the digital ones are more secure. They're a lot harder to compromise, but they can be.
But Costco has little markers now that tape seal to show that it hasn't been tampered with.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
what I do when I go to an ATM now is I literally shake the thing like this before I put my card in.
right. Yeah,
like, is this thing legit? Is it
right.
real? Because it's so prevalent now.
Yep.
So, have you ever been scammed?
Yeah. I mean, again, I mentioned the the Dr. Fraud trademark. Absolutely. I probably every 2 weeks, I'll get a notification from my credit card. Hey, is this legit? Especially when I was traveling, because my credit card was everywhere. I was in Romania one weekend, Slovenia. So, I mean, it was like, my credit card knew that. So I hit that travel algorithm, but I mean, my credit card was in so many places that were prone for fraud. And yeah, I mean, even my family, I mean, getting at Poshmark, one of my family members was actually selling items on Poshmark this time of year, back to school, selling some clothes, some name brand clothes. And, I mean, within the first post that she made, all excited, going to start her own entrepreneurial business and sell some clothes. First response she got back was a scam. And she had the knowledge to call me on it. She said, hey, seems weird. And the first flag to her, which raised her awareness, was they wanted to pay a little bit more because they said they wanted the item. They're like, wow, I love this item. I'll give you $10 more. Hey, can you give me some shipping info? And most people, I mean, unless it's a very, very rare, if you're talking a Reggie Jackson, rookie card, which is super, super rare. Most people are not going to offer more than what they're on there for bargains. And that was just recently that happened. And so people as a seller, there's a lot of scams go on as a seller. And what they're looking for there is two things. They're looking to get the good without paying. So they're going to try to dupe you that way. But secondly, we see more, they're trying to get personal information from you. So that's when they're going to say, hey, can you just verify your information, your address to send the payment to, or something like this. And that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to get that and then either sell that, on the dark web or just try to, use it for identity theft purposes anyway.
All right. So any final words you want to tell somebody, something we may have missed that is important you want to get out? It's like eating you up inside going, I got to say this.
I think, it's awesome. These platforms are great, Stanley. And I think, we talk so much about these, you and I, we're all over social media and doing some things. And I think, just focused on this one area, at this point is really important. We talked about the shopping scams. It's so, it's so vital because right now that's the flavor of the day. But if you think about it, there's what I call a scam DNA, right? So everything we just talked about, those clues and cues and tricks and tips, they're going to take that from shopping and you're going to see it in charity scams in about another month and a half. You're going to see it around Thanksgiving things. You're going to see it around, again, Valentine's Day, Election Day, whatever it might be. They're going to use those things and keep moving with those platforms, right? So if you do some of those things that we talked about, hop out, think before you click, and even, and you and I say this all the time, we have a lot of resources too. We love to hear from our people, on what's new, what's hot, so we can create awareness. So I appreciate the opportunity to share expertise, and I'm more than happy to chat with you down the road on stuff like this. This is great.
Or we can just hire some ninja auditors whenever we have an issue with our.
I love it. Yeah, working behind the scenes. I like that. I like some
So
ninja, yeah, ninja fraudsters. I love it.
tell everyone your website.
Sure, www.drfraud.org. All my handles, email, everything's on there. And again, love to hear from everybody on social media. Very active there, and let me know what's going on in your areas. And like I said, guys like Stanley and I, we can do our thing on it. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity, though. It was great.
Yeah, we definitely have to connect again, and I want to thank you so much for joining us. And
my pleasure.
You hang on tight. We're gonna close the show out, and then you and I talk off camera. So stand by.
Thank you for listening to Reasons Why Aliens Will Never Invade Earth. Reasons Why Aliens Will Never Invade Earth, Millennial Boom, and Caught Misbehaving videos are made possible through viewer donations. Check out www.linktree.com/MrBadleyTV to see how you can help.